see here. I'll put it in the actual agenda so you can read the actual. We've determined that we can make quorum thanks to Mary here to fill in for Jeff Bryant today. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and hopefully Commissioner Walker will wander in. I will now call this meeting of the Public Works and Safety Standing Committee to order. We want to welcome everyone to this meeting. Public comment is welcome. Anyone wishing to speak on any item on the Standing Committee agenda may do so when the item is up for discussion. You will have 3 minutes to state your comments. Please come forward to the table and you will be recognized. For accurate recording purposes, we ask all present to speak directly into a microphone. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Roll call. Gonzalez.
Here.
Philbrook.
Here.
Markley.
Here.
Maddox.
Here.
Walker. Okay.
Next, we have the minutes from our April 21st meeting. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That takes us to our committee agenda. We have 6 items. Item 1 is a request from Timothy Baptist Church for an honorary street name recognizing Reverend L.D. Sipple. I recognize Lydiana LeBoy from our Public Works Department. Is Lydiana here?
Lydiana is not present.
All
So I'm Bob Roddy. I'll make the presentation and answer any questions. This was a request that the Public Works Department received, and it complies with our policy regarding the honorary street naming. The petitioner submitted a report on the contribution Reverend Sipple made to the community over the last few years. And in addition, a vast majority of the people along the street did support the honorary street naming of Garfield from 22nd to 24th Street.
Are there any questions?
No, I just want to say that I first received a letter for Pastor Sipple, and I just wanted to say this on the record that I've been knowing him ever since I was a kid, and he's been an awesome pastor in the community. Not only that, he's actually, I believe the church has acquired over 9 to 10 properties on the street in which the church resides. They keep up those homes, rent them out, make that part of the community look real good. And so he's been preaching for over 30 years in our community, and I think that the street being named after him was a good process, and, you know, glad that we're moving forward on it.
You want to move that then?
Yeah, and I move that we move forward with the street naming after Reverend Pastor Sipple.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? All right, the motion has been made and seconded. Roll call.
Roll call. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye. Thank you. Item number 2 is an annual interlocal agreement with Fairfax Drainage District. It's supposed to be presented by Mr. Jim Larkin, but I don't know who's actually presenting.
Yes, I'm Jim Larkin as well.
Schizophrenic over there.
This is a yearly interlocal agreement we have with Fairfax Drainage District. Water pollution pays Fairfax Drainage District maintenance support for the sewers that are owned by Fairfax Drainage District in Fairfax. Water pollution control pays us because water pollution control wastewater flows through and uses their sewers in the Fairfax area. This year we did recommend that they receive a modest increase from 186 to 189,000. We have not had any raises with them probably for 4 or 5 years, so we thought it would be appropriate. In addition, we did receive from Fairfax in a separate letter that although the interlocal agreement does not discuss the issue of hike and bike trail, they did send us a separate letter at our request confirming that they are supportive of the hike and bike trail that was presented to the standing committee on April 21st, and that will in fact happen this summer.
Move approval.
Second. Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
Roll call. Gonzalez.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye. All right. Item number 3 is a resolution declaring the necessity and authorizing a survey of land for the 55th Street Bridge north of Leavenworth Road. Looks like Mr. Heatherman is going to present that item.
That's right. This is fairly routine action we take on projects when we're acquiring property. I will note, however, that we have asked to fast track. This is being coordinated with the BPU Nearman Power Plant improvements and other work on 55th.
Questions? If not, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
All right, roll call.
Roll call, Gonzalez.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye. All right, moving right along. Item 4 is a resolution authorizing an agreement with the City of Shawnee regarding the paving of County Line Road from 55th to 65th. Mr. Heatherman, it's you again.
That's correct. This particular item is funded through the NSRP program. In this location, the half of the road that's on our side was part of the District 6 recommendations for the 2014 program. So this interlocal is just the agreement that we need to have so that City of Shawnee, who is taking the lead on the project, so that we can reimburse them our share.
Okay.
And I would ask that we are asking this one to fast track as well. We're in the summer construction season, and there's just a lot of things we need to clear the plate and get them moving on.
Okay.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Roll call, Gonzalez.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Maddox.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye. Item number 5 is a presentation of various projects staff would like KDOT to consider under their local consult process. Bill Heatherman, once again.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask two folks to kind of, actually, if you guys want to take a seat right up here. Frank Weatherford is with us tonight. He's project manager on one of the projects, big projects that we're going to be talking about. But as former chair of the KCK Chamber of Commerce as well, Frank and I have had a number of conversations over the years about how we position our major needs and priorities in front. And I also have Jim Pickett here tonight. Jim is the KDOT district engineer. Metro engineer. And Jim and I collaborate on a lot of projects. You've seen him before. And ultimately, when we take these recommendations and send them forward to Topeka, a lot of times Jim's ability to act as a go-between and a representative on behalf of the county's interests, and Jim excels at that and has really helped us quite a lot over the years in making sure that our concerns were addressed, and also in making sure that we understand KDOT's concerns as well, and has done a wonderful job of helping us move a number of projects through. So the local consult process is the formal process KDOT uses to get local jurisdiction involvement. It tends to be every 2 years. This fall will be the 2014 round. Specific dates have not been announced yet, but typically it consists of a regional meeting in each of KDOT 6 areas. The last time it was in Olathe, the time before it was here in KCK at the Armory. And these are very important meetings. There's just no other way to put it, both in terms of policy positions and things that we want KDOT to think about in the long term, as well as positioning specific projects that are of local concern and interest on the major KDOT system. This local consult really focuses on the major system. So we've talked to you about MARC applications and federal funding, but this is the stuff that is on the order of I-70, I-35, I-435 type work. And these meetings make a difference. Usually within months after one of these local consult meetings, you can see how decisions are being made on projects, how things are moving forward. After the 2012 project, there was a lot of emphasis on the Village West area, and a specific announcement came that following February about moving forward on a preliminary engineering study. So it makes a difference what KDOT hears, and it makes a difference how we position our projects during these meetings. In 2012, we put a letter together which is attached to your agenda packet, and what we're here tonight is to begin the conversation about the updates to that letter or other information that we want to share with KDOT. But in the 2012 letter, we talked a bit about our policy priorities and perspectives as Wyandotte County, and these bullet points kind of really hit to the kind of message that we've been asking KDOT to consider, which is continue their focus on reinvestment and really prioritizing reinvestments and rebuilds over expansions. core areas as a priority more than outskirts. And that's because we want to make sure we're making use of the cities that we've already built. We have an awful lot of redevelopment potential here in KCK, but if the transportation dollars don't keep the core area sound, it's harder for us to necessarily get those redevelopments off the ground. A focus on choke points and problem spots versus just miles of lane expansions. And this is a very difficult and pretty high-profile policy issue for KDOT around the state. Stay responsive to true demand, keep projects broken up in phases, continue to send the message of Village West as a very special economic development zone and the way it supports our entire county. And then transit, walkability, complete streets, and aesthetics. This is more and more becoming a factor in nearly every project we talk about, and is probably an area that if you looked 20 or 30 years ago, is an area where there's probably been the greatest change in thinking. So we put together a list of our top priorities 2 years ago. The 4 dots in blue were very large projects. The 5 dots in yellow are medium-sized, and I say medium by KDOT standards. They're really quite huge, each one of these projects. Just want to give you a little taste of them. So the large projects came down to Lewis and Clark Viaduct, Missouri River Bridge Replacement, US 69, K7 and I-70 interchange project, and work on the northern leg of I-35. And I'm really pleased to say there's movement on all 4 of these projects. You all have heard a lot about Lewis and Clark. The phase 1 of that 3-phase project is moving forward. I will say that Jim Pickett came almost 4 years ago and said, Bill, we've been thinking about this Lewis and Clark Viaduct. We'd like to partner with you all on a study. So, I commend KDOT for inviting us to be part of that. Missouri River Bridge Replacement, MoDOT has the lead on that, and I think you all have heard quite a bit about that. K7 and I-70 interchange, as it stands right now, construction is programmed through phase 3. It's a 10-phase project, and I couldn't begin to explain what happens in every one of those phases. Our opinion is that construction up through phase 4 would put us at a good resting spot, and we expressed some concern that K7 and I-70 not necessarily take all of the Wyandotte County momentum, because while it's an important project, it's just one of our needs, and quite frankly is at the farthest reach of our kind of customer base, if you will. And then I-35 northern leg, 75th north to state line, is the Tiger. Well, the middle part of I-35 is KDOT's current Tiger grant application, but the long-range studies have talked about that northern leg. There's a lot of constraints, a lot of challenges, but our recent discussions with KDOT has confirmed that they recognize we need to keep an attention there. And in our next letter, we will probably really draw out the KU Med Center and hospital campus and the need to keep that particular state asset as a high priority in how we think about I-35. So that's just a picture of where the really large projects are, and these are just some pictures. I'll just kind of walk through, kind of remind you the context of each of these investments. This is how K7 I-70 currently is. It's already changing. And the entire I-35 complex has an awful lot of pieces to it. The medium-sized list, or maybe some projects you might be familiar with, Village West area, and immediately after the consult last year, about 4 months later, the announcement came that the I-435 and State Avenue interchange study would begin. I will tell you that we are poised to begin the design stage for State Avenue and Village West here quite shortly. Our entire plan for that had to have that project shovel ready and to move forward with financing so that construction could occur whenever financing could be secured. And that State Avenue and Village does include pedestrian and bike accommodations. We won't necessarily, we'll carry bikes to the Village and State intersection and be able to have them access Village West Parkway in and around the stadium until they reconnect with points on West. So bike and pedestrian and aesthetics have been a big part of that project. Lamar Avenue Bridge at I-35, someday the Lamar Avenue Bridge will be replaced, and we have plans already for how the railroad could have an overpass there. And that's just a piece of long-range planning that we don't want to lose out on. reconfigure I-70 and 635. The M3 and the M5 project are really safety and spot upgrades to the I-70, 635 interchange and the I-35, 635 interchange. And then I-70 and Turner Diagonal reconstruction, that would actually be an opportunity when KDOT has those bridges to replace to actually release some land there. That whole interchange was laid out for when it was part of the turnpike and does not need to be so much. And it's all recognized that that could happen someday, but we want to make sure that it's an intentional plan that we're working towards. So again, these are a picture of where those medium scale priorities fall. They're not medium priorities, they're medium-sized projects. And I'll walk through these away. One comment that Frank Weatherford shared when he looked at these with me was that we have projects that hit a lot of different funding categories. So it's not like you have to look at this and say, well, which is project 1 versus which is project 9. It's really a question of how do we position each of these projects to be in the place where they can get the most traction. With that, I'd open it up to questions that you may have. I'm going to pass around. We made a print of just the major map here so that you all have that as a take-home.
Well, this is more of a comment, realization that for the lack of money, whether it's statewide or otherwise, that it's pretty hard to put it on a definite timeline, correct? As far as when we expect to do some of these things? Or you feel comfortable in putting timelines on anything?
I think we don't get to put the timeline on them. We can express the urgency. I think what's really happening at the state level, the state tends to work in 10-year highway bills, and they tend to follow the decades. So we are in really the middle of the 2010 to 2020 plan, which goes by the name of T-Works. But my understanding from KDOT planning is now is the time that the 2020 to 2030 plan is starting to be discussed, and that this local consult and maybe the one after it are really quite important for getting that next 10-year batch of projects identified and prioritized. And I would let Jim maybe comment a little on that.
I might just mention, as Bill said, we're well into T-Works with the projects that are in there that have been identified for funding. You know, as you all know, and as the commissioner has mentioned, funding is a very important item. And as Bill brings this up tonight, the local consult, the details are still being worked out on it. But I think what we're going to see there, we're going to see an overview and a refreshment of where do we stand with T-Works. This will be an opportunity to point out the projects that have been important to the unified government, Wyandotte County, which projects remain to be important, and any new projects that may be coming on the horizon. So this is, as Bill said, this is really an opportunity to bring those things up, be heard by KDOT and maybe some other partners that may want to partner with you in pushing for the projects.
Okay.
Well, I had a question. They're not ranked in importance or anything. I mean, just they were numbered. I saw through 1 through 5. Does that mean?
That's correct. We did not imply a ranking when we shared this letter with KDOT 2 years ago.
So you could do one end of 635, but not the other end, possibly. They won't be done back to back.
Ultimately, KDOT takes the local consult as just one factor in how the priorities are made. And it is important for us, if we can, to be quite clear on what our number one priority is. The difference between just a wish list and effective strategy comes down to being able to articulate what our priority is and where we would really put the most effort. Probably presenting them this list of 9 as presented lacked a little in terms of focus. And so one of the hopes we have of having this more engaged process with the Commission this summer is that when it comes time in October, if we have one clear message we want to send, that we're all on the same page.
Well, it will come as no surprise to anyone that my favorites are M4 and M5, the Turner Diagonal reconstruction and the reconfiguring I-35 and I-635. Some of you are probably aware from development discussions that we have some developable land along Turner Diagonal that we have had difficulty developing specifically because of the highway access there and the way that it's laid out just isn't ideal for a lot of purposes. So
Thanks for speaking up for District 8, I so appreciate that.
well, it's important to me too, so it's right there on my edge.
Hey,
But,
all right, there's two of us.
so yes, if we had to prioritize, for me, those are the two priorities, but most of these I'm at least generally familiar with, and they all seem to be worthwhile projects. So, other comments?
Commissioner, I would like to mention that this presentation that Mr. Heatherman just gave is in response in large part to what the commissioners have asked of us to bring information early and often to you so that you are informed well in advance of decision-making. So I applaud Bill for putting this together.
Appreciated.
Thank you. Two final points. We're inviting feedback, and as the Public Works Standing Committee, this is the right venue for working the issue. If you feel like other commissioners need involvement or you have something you would like the staff to do to help widen that message, but we'd invite comment over the next month, and we would plan to come back here before the local consult with a revised format of the letter that we would plan to share. The other thing is I would strongly encourage the council and other leadership in the community, including the Chamber of Commerce and others, to plan to come to the local consult and be part of that. I think I've seen a marching band from one of our other communities walk through. That's just a joke, but the fact of the matter is that other communities show up in full force with a very clear game plan, and when we don't do that, we miss opportunities to make our point known. So this is something that really does take more than just, a couple folks going, and it takes more than just winging it.
Sounds like we need to put together a bus and make a trip.
Well, and I was going to say too, can we get this this list from 2012 sent out to the other commissioners just by email to let them know that now would be the time to comment? I know it will be in our minutes, but some commissioners are not as diligent in that way.
Yeah.
So.
Bill, you also mentioned other possible sources of revenues to do some of these different projects, because not all of them would have the same sources of monies. Didn't you say something about that?
That's correct.
Okay, so with that in mind, is it possible for you to give us an idea of what some of the different sources could be for the different projects and what kind of monies we're talking possibilities for? I know it's kind of like pipe dream type information in a way, but on the other hand, these are the things you take into account when you're looking for monies to do these projects. And if we can be on the same page, that might help a bunch in steering.
Yes, Commissioner, we can do that.
Thank you.
I might just make one comment. As we look at the projects that have been authorized to move forward in previous local consults, we had a line of projects that have been accepted to move forward and some that were below the line that were not. When I first came to my current position, the I-70K7 project was just listed as a PE-only project, and that was just for moving forward with preliminary design. So that would be probably, should that occur and come out of this next local consult, that would be probably the first step for any project that might be selected to move forward. And once you do that, then you're just one step closer to realizing that particular project.
Yeah, I just barely remember way back then. Sorry, I'm being facetious because I remember talking to Bill the first time about State Avenue and that sort of stuff, and that was before I was elected, and talking about the possibilities of what that intersection would look like, and just to the west out there at the Legends and what. And I know we were talking at the time about he knew, and he stated very strongly that we have to have our ducks in the row and be prepared, as he's repeated a lot of times. So when it comes time for the KDOT money and other monies, that we're ready to hit the ground running. And so I think you have great partners in working at that.
Bill, one other thing I would say is, another round of applications, you sent out a nice email to all the commissioners saying when the comment period opened and those sorts of things. A little different because it was online commenting, but same idea. Could you prepare that kind of email for this as well to let us know when there's something coming up that public comment would be appreciated for? And that was nice because we could just forward it on to our constituents.
Yes, we'll do.
And would you please include Mr. Bryant too?
Well, yes, I will do that.
I like how you just volunteered him there. It was great. Any other comments for Mr. Heatherman on this topic? Great, this was for discussion only, so if there are no other comments, we'll move on to item 6, which I believe is Bill's as well. It consists of 2 resolutions regarding funding adjustments for the Merriam Lane project from 10th to 24th Streets.
That is correct. Merriam Lane is a project that will start construction this summer. It's a very complicated project, and we've made a number of decisions based on doing right by the businesses, keeping things open in spite of fairly major utility conflicts and constraints in the project, and making quite a bit of investment in the drainage infrastructure underneath that road, given its long-standing issues. The bottom line is we had budgeted between local and state resources for the last several years. We've been holding on a budget of $9.0 million. We knew we were getting tight. Now that all the numbers are in, we recognize we need $10.3 million in authorization. That $1.3 million increase, we proposed $500,000 through debt of the general fund and $800,000 through debt of the stormwater utility. Because of the timing of the project, we are also asking fast track so that we can confirm to KDOT to accept the very good bid on a complicated project that they have in hand. And I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Yeah, how does stormwater feel about that? The 800?
Stormwater is fine with that.
Okay, well, I'm just asking because it's kind of important, especially with all the stuff we're dealing with all the stormwater stuff. So, so moved.
Second.
Any other comments? Roll call on the motion.
Roll call Gonzalez,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Maddox,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye. All right. And I think that brings us to our outcomes item. Mr. Heatherman, thanks for all of your presentations tonight. And it just says here that we are open for discussion on where we go from here as far as our outcomes. This is not my committee, but they hopefully included our outcomes in our packet. If I can get it to go there, maybe. Which are infrastructure, environment, public safety, and multimodal transportation. So I would just open it up for any discussion as far as whether there's a particular topic we would like to discuss next meeting that we should put on the agenda specifically, or whether anyone has any item within our topics on which they would like staff presentation.
I know.
I'd like intermodal transportation. What is the future? If we have any plans for the future. We've added some bus routes. I think there's probably other needs.
Yeah, I like that idea because, as you say, I mean, we have been working hard, they've been working hard on that in transportation, and when you talk intermodal, that puts it all together between, you know, our bus routes, our biking, the whole 9 yards. So,
Right.
yeah, that would be good.
I mean, the other issues are clearly going to come up for discussion during the budget, it would appear, from what we've heard so far from the mayor and certain commissioners. And we could build a lot of infrastructure. I mean, there's no question I wouldn't even know where to start or where to finish. But I don't see those. Those are going to go on every year for every commission for many years to come. There are issues with police and fire that are going to have to be resolved. I'm not hearing a long-term plan to change or convert to some new type of fire system or police system. So to me, right now, one of the things we can have a great impact on is the future of intermodal transportation and where we're at and where we go from here.
And I would just note, I noticed in my box, we each got a request from someone related to the Transit Action Network. So it might be interesting to have that discussion, and if some of us are meeting with that group to be able to bring back that information. So again, this is not traditionally my committee, so I will just make note for the minutes that it would be fabulous if staff could be prepared with a brief report on transportation, maybe what our current routes look like. And then next meeting, we could be prepared to just have a roundtable discussion on planning for that area of our goal. Any other comments on that?
Question.
Yes.
This Transit Action Network, I assume that's public transportation? Because I'm not
Let me
privy
pull
to.
out the email I received in my box.
I don't think we've received that email.
Yeah, I think it went to the commissioners. It just says, it's a transit advocacy group working to improve expanded transit in Kansas City region. And it says they were involved in the Rosedale Argentine route and getting Johnson County Transit to put up the Joe bus stop signs throughout Wyandotte County. So you're welcome to come and see the email between meetings.
I would enjoy that. Thank you.
Okay. All right, any other comments on goals? And if not, that was our last item, and we will conclude this meeting. Promptly to be followed by the next. Let me see this. Services Standing Committee. We'll now call this meeting to order. We welcome everyone to this meeting. Public comment is welcome. Anyone wishing to speak on any item on the Standing Committee agenda may do so when the item is up for discussion. You will have 3 minutes to state your comments. Please come forward to the table. For accurate recording purposes, we ask all present to speak directly into a microphone. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Roll call. Philbrook,
Here.
Kane, Maddox,
Here.
Walker,
Here.
Markley.
Here. We now have the minutes from our April 21st meeting. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. These minutes have been approved, which takes us to item 1 on our committee agenda. We only have 2 items, and one consists of a proposed policy change to our HR guide. Renee Ramirez, our HR director, is here to present this item, along with, it looks like, assistants.
Thank you. Good evening. With me today, I have Dave Wimberly. He is the UG Safety Officer. And to his left is Dustin Swartz. He is the Workers' Compensation Coordinator for the Unified Government. Human Resources is proposing to make some modifications to some of our Human Resources Guides policies to conform with updated federal, state, and laws and current ordinances and other organizational practices. The first policy that I'd like to present to you is the smoke-free workplace. The amendment to this policy basically is just to insert language from the current city ordinance 17-133 which prohibits any kind of cigarette from being used in unified government buildings, or prohibits that anywhere smoking is prohibited at the unified government. The second policy is the probationary period policy. The amendment to this policy is just to reflect recent changes that we made to our vacation policy. Employees are now eligible to receive a portion of their vacation time at the conclusion of successfully completing the probationary period, which in many instances is 6 months. So we just had to modify the language to match the current language in the vacation policy. The next policy is the performance review policy. It was formerly known as the performance appraisal policy. The revisions to this policy reflect changes which now places more emphasis on dialogue and feedback given to the employees, and to implement a system that is more in line with organizational goals and objectives. This particular review process, unified government non-union employees have already began the rating period for this portion. It started on June 1st of 2014. The next policy that we have is the workers' compensation and injury leave policy. This policy in particular is, and the changes are to reduce workers' compensation costs by enhancing the reporting process that we have, and it also holds and gives accountability and responsiveness for this policy. The amendments will actually clarify the roles for the employees, the supervisors, and the human resources staff when having to file a work comp injury and following it through the entire process. And the last policy is the driver safety, accident reporting, and vehicle use policy. This policy was amended to conform with industry standards and to streamline the process for checking driver history and to monitor driver behavior in an effort to reduce liability for the unified government.
Okay, I do have a question about one little section about performance review.
Yes.
Yeah, let me get down here. What it is. Many times as I've read this, you should think I would have it memorized. All right.
We had a tablet malfunction, so we're sharing up here in
Yes.
case you're wondering.
My tablet's being updated. Let's see. Something about, here it is. Is it steps? Somewhere in here it says something about they don't have a right for grievance. And I've got to find that for the review. And I've got to find that exact statement. Here it is. It's E2. Employee responsibilities. Performance review cannot be grieved. Major disagreements with statements or ratings may be discussed with ascending levels of management. Can you say a little bit more about that?
I think it's E2.
Yeah.
Very last page of the policy.
Okay. I was an employee some time ago. I just saw.
Basically, when the department set the goals for the employees, this is just a measurement of their performance. And it's basically just to foster, discussions on how they perform. And in an effort to try to foster those active discussions, employees, because it's not really tied to merit increases, it's merely to administer, growth and offer suggestions on performance for the employees. So that is really not a grievable item at that point. And the employees do sign that, the employees do acknowledge that they may not be in agreement to what's there. And the employee signing the review is only that they acknowledge the discussion, not that they actually agree.
So in other words, when they fill out their own self-evaluation, then they can make statement about how they feel about their eval and how they differed from what their evaluation was.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and during the process, if at any time the employee feels, once the goals have been set, if there's any modifications to the goals, let's just say that possibly there's something that will hamper the employee from succeeding in that particular goal, this process gives an opportunity for management and the employee to have several conversations and to be able to update those goals as they come along.
Go ahead.
You still have the process of appealing up through the ranks, I suppose, to the county administrator level.
Yes.
All right. We still have unions that are covered by this handbook, by the general human resource policies.
The unions are covered under their memorandum of understanding, and we are proposing to actually have union personnel go through this review process as well, and we are hoping to implement that by January of 2015.
Well, the way I would read this is that if my union were covered by the handbook, ASME used to be, are they still under the guidelines except where the contract controls?
When the contract does not speak specifically about a certain portion, it reverts back to the Human Resources Guide.
Well, what I'm getting at is that the way I'm reading this is that if we adopt this, there was a problem years ago that you would go through the process and it would either be affirmed or altered or amended, and then it was in theory to be over, but then a union member with a separate grievance process would try to grieve his review or her review through the union grievance process. This would seem to preclude that double bite of the apple, if you will. Is that how you read this?
We have discussed this with our labor council, Carl Gallagher, and he believes that these are under management rights.
Can we pass the mic, please?
Well, I'm not criticizing it. I just want my fellow commissioners to understand that it is if we do not want employees to have two separate processes for appealing a performance review that has at least the stated purpose of mutual dialogue and understanding and improvement of performance. And we don't want it to become a grievable offense, or at least I'm assuming, by adding this provision that it's not grievable, meaning grievable, you've already gone up through all to the county administrator. There's nowhere to go from him other than, bringing it to the commission, and the commission is not to be involved in administrative personnel decisions. So grieve has to mean grieve it through provisions in a separate memorandum of understanding through a union grievance process that ultimately could lead to arbitration of whether the review was fair and balanced and so forth. So that's an expensive process for a performance review. So I'm wanting that to be understood by everyone up here, but if I'm wrong in that understanding, then I want to know, because I don't think we should have two opportunities to appeal a performance review.
Perhaps we will look at it between now and the commission to make sure.
Please, and make sure that that's the correct reading of that.
Just to clarify what Carl has said, management rights are defined in the PIRA statute, the Public Employees, I forget what PIRA.
Relations.
Relations Act, thank you. That existing rights of the employer are not, of a public employer are not affected by this act. Nothing in this act is intended to circumscribe or modify the existing right of a public employer to direct the work of its employees, hire, promote, demote, transfer, assign, and retain employees, suspend or discharge for proper cause, maintain the efficiency of governmental operation, relieve employees from duties because of lack of work or other legitimate reasons, take actions as may be necessary to carry out the mission of the agency in emergencies, and determine the methods, means, and personnel by which operations are to be carried on. So
Okay.
those are management rights under the statute, but we'll discuss further with Carl if that language could be clarified and expanded upon.
Well, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your attentiveness to this, because just as a layperson, not somebody that's in HR, you look at that and you go, no right to grieve. Well, no, wait a minute. What does that mean to us? And so thanks for your clarification on that. And I look forward to seeing if there's any other modifications. Thank you.
Any other comments on the revised policy? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Roll call.
Roll call. Philbrook,
Aye.
Maddox,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye. Thank you all very much.
As they're leaving, I just wanted to state that there's another set of policies going to be coming forth in the next few months, probably after the budget season, to kind of go through the HR guide and make these changes. So we'll bring them to you in batches, so.
Okay, thanks, guys. We'll look
Thank
forward
you
to seeing you in a few months.
Thanks for warning us. Thank you very much.
Item 2 is a request from Chris Cooley to remove user login requirements when searching real estate information on our website. Mr. Cooley, welcome, and thank you for helping us advance one of our goals and outcomes.
Well, I certainly wanted to come to the commission. We've had plenty of discussion among staff and with legal as well on this issue. It was decided that we should bring it to you guys, the policymakers. A few months ago when I spoke to you guys and showed you kind of a tour of some of our online applications, one of them was our Lands Web application. Currently, there's two ways public users can access that. One is just anonymous access, and when they do that, they don't see owner name, and they can't search by owner name. Then if they create a user account, which means they give us their name, their email address, and a few other things, and they go through the process like you would through like Amazon.com or something like that, creating a username, creating a password, that kind of thing. Then they can log into the system and then they can see owner name. This was a historical replacement for an old system we had that allowed users to access our old mainframe system, which went away in 2008. And it was the cautious approach we took when we started edging into the world of online access to county records and county information. Back in the early 2000s, it was new territory for all of us. Now, after doing, just today, I did a survey of the surrounding counties around Wyandotte County, all the counties that surround Wyandotte County, as well as the 5 major counties in Kansas, Sedgwick, Shawnee, Douglas, Leavenworth, Johnson counties. All of them either have access to owner name. You can see the owner name of a piece of property or something like that, or you can even search by owner names and see all the properties that a particular person owns. So the request here is that we change our policy with the understanding that, yes, this is personal information. It isn't necessarily private. There are certain owner names that under state law, certain individuals can opt out. And that we're going to honor those requests to opt out from being available in online searches. We're going to still require people that access the website to acknowledge our disclaimer, which acknowledges state law when it comes to lists of names and addresses, that they can't use it for solicitation or other related purposes like that. So everything is still in place. It's just that they no longer have to log in or create a login to be able to see owner names, so they can freely and anonymously access it. And it'll reduce staff time. It'll reduce some of our overhead on things that we have to maintain. We no longer have to have this login system that we have to maintain and worry about any of that. Fewer phone calls to our office, my office as well as the clerk's office, and probably the appraiser and treasurer as well. So at this time, if there's any questions, be willing to answer those and, move forward in a manner that you guys feel is appropriate.
Well, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that this sounds like you guys are really trying to do what the commission asked, and that's open data. And if that saves money while we're doing it, I'm all for it.
You mentioned the opting out concept. Would someone who, for whatever reason, wants to just opt out be able to contact your office and do that?
The current law, I believe, is that they have to contact the custodian of record. And under statute, there are only there's a strict set of individuals that are allowed to opt out. Judges, I think law enforcement, city council, those kinds of individuals can opt out from being available on online searches.
I guess I was curious, and this might be in the statute or it might not, so if you don't know the answer, that don't worry about it. But I'm just curious if someone has like a restraining order or something like that, is that one of the reasons they could opt out? Because I could see that being an issue if we're sort of providing someone who's trying to run from someone the.
I'm not aware of that, but I'll certainly follow up with
Okay.
with legal staff and see what
Well,
their
that,
feelings are.
you hit on the topic. I wasn't understanding how a person can keep their ownership of property private. I guess I was never aware there was an opt-out provision.
Right. It's a recent statute, only a year or two old. So.
Well, I don't have any real issue with what you're trying to do, but perhaps you could, or maybe legal, since someone, let me know who it is that can opt out, or just send me the statute and I can read it myself,
Yeah.
Statute number.
We can find that, yep.
If you would just send that to all of the commissioners and get it over with, that would save some time.
Sure.
I have no further questions.
So move the action.
And so are we moving that we want him to do it unless we find something in the statute that we're concerned about? How do we want to handle that statute issue in our motion?
Was there somebody really concerned about a statute issue? Or did we just want information?
I just want to know. So maybe we move for approval with the understanding that the statute will appear in the full commission packet for our review? I'm just trying
That
to
might be
figure
a
out.
good idea, do it
Okay.
that way.
Yeah, then if we decide we don't like what's in the statute, we have that opportunity at full commission to deal with it.
Thank you, yes, please do that.
Sorry for.
Of course we
your
can do
motion
that.
for you.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much for writing my motion. I so appreciate that.
Do we have a second to that long motion?
Second.
Fabulous. Roll call on that motion.
Roll call. Philbrook,
Aye.
Maddox,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye. And thank you again, Mr. Cooley,
Thank you.
for, like I said, advancing one of our goals for us. So similar to our last committee, our final item is related to our outcomes, and we had a presentation here in March. We did not have any discussion in April or May regarding our outcomes. So the question is just, how do we want to proceed? We were provided a little summary of our presentation since August 2013 in our packet. As I said, we had a presentation in March regarding open data, which Chris Cooley was nice enough to come and present. That was our really long night, if you remember. Prior to that, we worked really hard in workforce development, so that's really our most substantive sort of goal area other than open data.
Okay, so my comment on the workforce development thing is I definitely don't want to do it until September. Because we're still working on that. That's still an ongoing project.
Okay.
And I don't want to nip that before we have something substantive to give you.
Okay. Our other, just to review our goals, we have education and workforce development. We have healthy communities and recreation, and we sort of have regular updates from that committee anyway. So although we don't traditionally talk about them under our outcomes, we are getting regular updates. The other ones were sort of asked and answered questions that are listed here regarding the sales tax and local residents preference. UGTV, we've obviously talked about as a full commission, customer service, which is an ongoing issue, and then our open data goal. So I guess the question is, do any of us have specific topics under those items that we want to work on and move forward other than Commissioner Philbrook, and I think Commissioner Maddox as well are involved in that continuing workforce development discussion.
What about 311? Can we talk about that? I mean, can we bring forward,
That would
because
go-
that
that would go
deals
under
with our
customer service.
Exactly. If we could find out a little bit more about how things are going through that and
Okay.
what's going on.
And that'd be a good probably discussion during budget time as well, because there's been some discussion about to what extent we fund 311. So, yeah, if we could, we'll put that on the agenda for next meeting for a deeper discussion, and if staff can be prepared to just summarize what's happening now with 311, and also I think to summarize what the possibilities are, because I think it has a greater capability than what we've traditionally used it for. We just haven't been able to fund that capability. Any other
No, I agree.
comments on that topic?
311 has a lot more potential than it's demonstrating at the current time.
Great.
We can do that.
Well, I'm very proud of us for setting up discussion on two important items this evening. Any other comments on our outcomes and goals? If not, we're done for the night. We're adjourned. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.